what that's like to have to watch.
Well, I can only speak of what it was like to watch tonight because no one's experienced anything like this. Ryan Clark hasn't, as he expressed, and all the other players. Booger McFarland, who was in studio earlier tonight talking about it. And it really is unprecedented, as we know. So you're right. The gravity of the situation became very clear very soon. I saw the same things that you were seeing back in studio as far as them administering CPR feverishly. It's as I said. I mean, I think people at home can understand it. That the amount of time that you spend with your teammates, as Ryan Clark said during the season, it is more than you spend with your family, and so it's real. The relationships are real that go on long after you're done playing the game. I can speak to that. But to watch what we did tonight was hard on everybody. And prayers, of course, are with DeMar and his family, and we can only hope for the best. And what this looks like, everyone has said it. The football becomes secondary. Quite frankly, I don't know how they get this game in. I just, in the back of my mind, I just don't think they can. But right now, that's a discussion for another time and another place. But
because this is a really important game in the scheme of football, and I think we all understand at the moment that football is far secondary to the concerns of the moment. Troy, Joe, as you all said, it's been difficult to put words to this, and you guys did as best as you could for the amount of time that was from the moment that he went down until where we are now, and I appreciate your time and your perspective, guys. Thank you so much.
No, of course, Scott. Thank you. You just hope and pray for him, and when you're going through that, you hope you put the right words to it. And we all we were in shock, and you could see shock all over the faces of those players, and just hoping and praying for the best.
Indeed, well said. Troy, Joe, we'll talk again sometime soon, hopefully Saturday night. All right, we'll see some of the social media reaction. His coach, Pat Narduzzi. Yep, our hands are along with yours, Pat. We are praying, and Ryan Shazier as well. Prayers for him, and hope everything is okay. As we know, it's at the moment it's not. He's in critical condition. Coley Harvey joins us now outside the hospital there, and Coley, as I said when we came on, we deal with what we know. Not what we want to know, but what we know. At the moment, 10:34 Eastern Time, what do we know?
Well, Scott, there is not much that we do know other than the fact that, as the NFL just released moments ago in a statement, that Damar Hamlin is in critical condition inside the hospital behind me. What I can tell you is that I'm about a block away from the emergency room where he was transported about an hour or so ago to this location. We're starting to actually see fans who were at the ball game who've made their way over here, both Bills fans and Bengals fans. Actually just heard from a Bengals fan who said, hey, we had to show up because this is bigger than football at this point. We're praying for him, and we have to show that respect to the humanity of someone, not just to the game of football itself. What we can also tell you is that after the game at Paycor Stadium, neither team spoke. There were no press conferences. The teams showing that level of deference at this particular moment. Again, there's so much speculation going on social media at this point. There are several unconfirmed reports of what is indeed happening and what indeed happened on the field. I can tell you what I saw from the press box was the administering of some type of care, whether it was CPR, is what it appeared to me at that time. I can also tell you we saw the ambulance come onto the field and the players from both teams taking that knee in solidarity, as their thoughts are certainly with Damar Hamlin. And I will also add that we will be going down in moments to hear from press relations, media relations here at the hospital. They will be talking to reporters, so hopefully we'll have a little bit of an update here fairly shortly.
All right, Coley, and just one last thing, just to make sure that our timeline is as clear as it can be. 9:25 Eastern Time was what I believe is the information for the time that he was transported by ambulance to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Is that check out?
would have survived.
That checks out, and I will add that the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, actually lived in Cincinnati myself several years ago. Covered this team, the Cincinnati Bengals, for several years, so I was very familiar. This is 2 miles away from Baycor Stadium, so a very quick transport, which is obviously important in this particular moment of life. Potential critical care that's being administered to Damar Hamlin. So yes, that's the timeline that checks out from what I can tell you, Scott.
Coley Harvey in Cincinnati with the latest, and we will be keeping our eyes and ears out for anything that you can share as you're able. Coley, I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
And they lost.
Thank you.
CTE.
Once again, recapping this evening that began with such a sense of anticipation for this football game. Damar Hamlin tackled T. Higgins as Cincinnati had a 7-3 lead. It was the second time that they had the football. The game began as you might have expected with these two excellent teams, both up and down the field, and then in a moment everything stopped as Hamlin stood to his feet after tackling T. Higgins, and then very quickly the situation became rather grim and dire as the medical personnel were tending to him in a manner consistent with someone who was in need of their care in order to be resuscitated. You see the ambulance leaving the field there, and again, just the timeline, this is really neither here nor there, but it was just in real time. It appeared that the game was going to be suspended for a period of a couple of minutes, and then the players were going to play again. And then I think both teams and coaches said, no, we're not. And they didn't. And we have a live look there at the stadium. That's where the Bills buses are. And it was reported, Lisa Salters, also social media I noticed as well. And I would attribute it, my forgiveness, it was a reporter there that mentioned that the Bengals captains, Burrow, Karras, Reeder, in uniform, went from their locker room to the Bills locker room. And Ryan Clark, who is back again, it just speaks to this brotherhood. And the football piece of this is secondary. Troy just mentioned, I don't know when they get this in, and I don't know either. Ultimately, what matters tonight is the life of this young man, Damar Hamlin. We understand that. That's most important. He's in critical condition.
Probably play a game on Thursday.
At some point,
with these guys, no one's in the NFL.
This game is significant as it relates to the big picture of both these teams, because at some point football will be played again for both of them. I don't know how they figure that piece out, particularly when this young man's health he's in critical condition.
So you are taught you are hard.
Maybe no football we played.
Right, injuries. You become so desensitized to injuries. My freshman year at LSU. A guy goes down, tears his ACL.
This league is corrupt.
And Jerry Donato at the time is the head coach. And I'm used to high school and everything stopping whenever someone got hurt. Jerry Donato said, move the ball.
Too bad.
And we moved the ball 15 yards. And the athletic training staff is still tending to my teammate who just tore his ACL. And we started the next play. This happens in this game all the time. We've seen hits that look like car crashes, and we cart guys off, or guys go into the tent, and then the next snap takes place. And the standard, as Coach Tomlin would say, is the standard. This isn't standard.
No.
This isn't normal. No. This isn't move the football 10 yards and allow these guys to play again. When you see men who have spent their whole life understanding that you don't make the club in the tub, understanding that the best ability is availability, all of these things that they say, you get used to that. And so for over 100 grown adult men who their entire lives have put on pads and understood the risk you take every time you do it, to be speechless, to be in tears, to be gathered in prayer, that tells you how significant this moment was. Not only for Damar Hamlin, who was the most significant for his mom that had to come out of the stands so she could go to the hospital with it. To even now, Cincinnati Bengals fans understanding that this is bigger than football. This is bigger than Lombardi trophies. This is life.
The game is scripted.
And
this thing is real.
There aren't many jobs in the world that we don't consider
this guy might die.
life-threatening.
So this
Right?
is
Like we
real right
understand
now.
like the first responders and what they give for us and what they do and the risk that they accept and they take, and that's why we praise them so highly. But when we put these pads on, all we think about is the millions of dollars.
Yep.
All we think about is the accolades. All we think about is the applause.
Well, entertain us, right? I mean, that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to go out there and entertain us in the fantasy football, and that's
Yeah,
all
that's it.
understood, right? Because it is
Entertainment.
and it does matter to people. But your point's well taken. That this is an entirely different portion of the conversation.
How do they move on from this?
I don't know, and I don't know.
I think they'll
That's the
move
part
on.
tonight.
The
It
NFL will
was
move
so
on.
evident that
The guy gets
5 minutes.
If he's okay, they'll
We're not
move
playing
on.
football. Okay,
He
no one's playing
dies,
football in
that's-
5 minutes or 30 minutes. Not
Can
tonight.
happen.
But I mean, let's
And
work
how
through
do they
this.
move
Like,
on?
what, are they going to do it tomorrow? I mean, I have
Really
no
bad. They will have
idea.
to suspend
And I mean,
the
frankly,
league.
again, as we speak right now with this young man in critical
They have to
condition, I
suspend
don't
the
care.
games
I don't
next year.
care when they play football. But at some point, it's an
Something
answer
goes
that
wrong.
has to go.
Figure out what to
in
do.
truth, if the NFL cares
Mm.
about the players, this is the first time I believe the NFL truly had to care about the players' emotional and mental health as well.
Mhm.
This is the first time we got to watch those emotions. We got to watch that type
Really?
of thought
Maybe you're right.
process right in front
In
of
real
us.
It
time.
wasn't this
Right, we
bad
never
before
get to
though.
see that.
Because it had to
about it.
happen. It had to happen in real time. Like,
never
and
happened.
even
Nothing like
if,
this
I
happened
believe it was
before.
Mina Kimes who said this on
Tom
Twitter, and
Brady.
I agree. Even
It wasn't this
if
bad.
miraculously everything, if it was a type of deal where it's a hit that just knocked his heart out of rhythm and they fixed it and he's cool, he's good, he's on on his way to the hospital, but he's going to be okay. Even if they got that news in the locker room,
Well, no news.
are you cool to go back out and like no?
Scott, you know why? Because that
But we
news
don't
doesn't
know.
let me see my friend. Right? That news doesn't let me touch my homeboy. That
But
news
he
doesn't
hasn't
let
been
me hug him.
fired.
That news doesn't let me say, yeah, he's okay.
He's
I'm with you.
unconscious.
Right? And so if I don't get that news,
I'm with you.
I'm not going to do this.
He's conscious.
Because what they will realize is when they get out there this time, if they put him back out there tonight, even if they say he's okay, it's the first time they'll realize you actually don't do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
That you do it for everybody else. That the little bit of extra that you give on a certain play isn't because you want it that bad. It's because you don't want to let that dude down. It's because you don't want to let your family down. But right now, your family is hurting and you can't change it. And he's not hurting like he can have a surgery and he'll be back walking and he'll be back running.
No.
Them even saying, because what do they tell you? Guess what, guys? DeMar's breathing on his own. So freaking what?
Yeah.
That doesn't change what we
don't
just
have
saw.
any
And
We don't have any news of that either.
to
Right now.
watch a man truly go lifeless, though, Scott. Right? That's something like we've seen people knocked out. We've seen bad hits. We saw the Tua. We remember how we reacted to the Tua situation that happened right on the same field. This was even different from that. I know the NFL is a big business. And the NFL has to continue doing business.
You know
And the
that.
NFL has to continue
Well,
entertaining.
we'll continue.
But if the
There's a big
NFL
question
doesn't
now.
send somebody into these locker rooms,
This guy
if the
gets
NFL
worse.
isn't flying people to Cincinnati right now or to Buffalo or wherever they're going right now, they are missing the point. The point is make sure these men are all right, and then you can play football. Because what I'm going to tell you is if you put them out there tomorrow, you're going to get a trash game anyway because you've said it 20 times tonight. What's important is DeMar Hamlin.
Because it is. Because it is. And again, the smarter people than me can figure that answer out
Well, maybe
when it
tomorrow,
matters.
if you know
But right now
something.
it doesn't. More to come with you,
We'll see
Ryan,
what
and I
happens.
appreciate your time and your perspective. Where am I looking?
Yeah.
Somebody tell me, oh, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
Ben Baby is with us now. Ben, I appreciate your time, and I'd ask you the same thing I asked Coley. All we're trying to deal in is what we know. What do you know at this hour?
Yeah, like Coley said earlier, the NFL statement says that DeMar Hamlin is in critical condition outside here at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center Hospital. I saw the ambulance leaving the facility at Paycor Stadium, and Ryan referenced the urgency that we saw. It was different than what you see from the Tua Tagovailoa situation earlier in Week 4 that did happen on the same field. We saw folks in number 3 jerseys following the tunnel, going up the tunnel, going to the ambulance. I was actually inside the emergency room briefly before it was closed to visitors, and whether it be patients, whether it be guests, whether it be hospital officials and those working tonight, you got the sense that this was just something that nobody has dealt with before, and there was everybody who was in the vicinity of that emergency room just wanted to know what was going on. As I made my way out of the stadium into the parking garage and made my way here, you had fans asking whether Damar Hamlin was okay. You got the sense there was everybody right now that is in Cincinnati that is knowing what's going on. You got the sense they want to know what is going on with Damar Hamlin. And so far, like I said earlier, we know that he is in critical condition, and we are currently waiting for more information from hospital officials about his condition.
Ben, I'll give you a chance to get reconfigured there so you can hear my question. If you were the one that had the timeline that the ambulance left at 9:25, I don't know that if we're able to witness the situation beforehand and what type of care was being provided at the time that happened. If you didn't witness it, you'll forgive my ignorance. I simply just don't know the answer to the question.
Yeah, so what we saw was when the game was stopped, the medics, they took an extended amount of time after the ambulance was on the field to give Damar Hamlin treatment. They did not immediately load him into the ambulance. They spent several minutes working with him on the field. Eventually, it appears that they gave him oxygen as he was loaded into the ambulance. And one thing that does stick out is the reaction from the players. I saw Kaiir Elam, the Bills, rookie cornerback. He had his back to Damar Hamlin. The players had a shield around him. The Bills players did, almost like a U. And Kaiir was looking over his shoulder to his right with the staffer, his hand on Kair's shoulder, looking back. You saw players walking to the far end of the field, just not wanting to be around it. You saw T. Higgins, the Bengals player who was involved in the collision. He was on the other sideline, hands over his head. They all waited patiently. When I got to the hospital, the ambulance had been here for roughly a few minutes. It was still here. I believe it is still here right now. But there was a sense of urgency, like I said, that we typically do not see, even with these type of injuries that do appear to be serious.
Ben Baby in Cincinnati from the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. I appreciate your update and the information. We will keep our eyes and ears out for anything else you can share, Ben. Thank you. Damar Hamlin in critical condition at the hospital this hour after making a tackle just before 9 o'clock Eastern time in the Bills game against Cincinnati. The significance of the game was understood. It was as big a game as there was certainly this weekend. All of the implications to the playoff picture moving forward, and it all stops at 9 o'clock, and those concerns are secondary. And I'm trying to put myself, and you've talked so much about this, about this brotherhood, and I'm trying to put myself in the locker room of the Buffalo Bills, this is, as you said, this is a second-year guy living his dream and becoming a very important piece on this team very quickly, right? And I just don't know how you process this at this hour and what you do to next play. I get it. And I get that you all are wired that way. I just don't know how in a circumstance such as this that there's next play.
Scott, I can only imagine what it's taking for you to continue hosting a show about football right now. Right? My thoughts are neither of us are actually emotionally equipped for what we're being asked to do. Imagine being in their shoes.
That's the big question.
I can't.
None of those men are emotionally equipped to handle this.
I couldn't look at Steph crying. I know Stephon from Maryland guy, and we have such pride in him and all he's become, and you see that guy in tears, and it's like, I'm an emotional guy to begin with. I see that, and I think by proxy we understand, because we're human beings, man. And look, I think we do have such an appreciation that this is what we get to do. And this game was so big, and we were going to have a blast, and you're going to do your touchscreens, you're going to do all kinds of nonsense jokes. We're going to do our bit. And now I'm sitting here looking at you, so I just want to hug you, man. It's like, this night and what it is that has happened is just so foreign, all of it.
Yeah, I think in how quickly it happened. The play with T. Higgins looked like a routine football play. We've seen that play a million times. And even when he's on the ground, my first thought was, okay, what happened to him? What's the injury? Is it a stinger? Did something happen to his face?
I wonder, did he take a helmet to the chin in real time? And then when I saw that wasn't it.
That's what I said. He got hit to the
scariest part is when they show the replay and I realized he actually got up. Because then I thought to myself, well, this isn't anything external. And once we get out of that realm, I get nervous because we aren't equipped to handle that. When I can see it, when I can feel it, when I can understand it, when you can explain it to me, then I get it. But when you can't talk and
I still say you got hit to the chin.
I'm not a medical genius, but when I hear CPR, I do know we aren't giving CPR to people who can breathe on their own. And to equate that to a football game, to compare that to a football play, to look at that as happening in a football game, that's not what it's supposed to be. That's not what we were prepared to talk about. And in not being prepared to talk about that, no one who's living through what the Hamlin family is living through, what the Buffalo Bills family is living through, what the Cincinnati Bengals are living through, planned on living through that tonight. And you have to live through that extremely publicly. And so now we are trying to make sense of something that makes no sense. And that's an impossibility for us. But imagine being in the raw emotion of that and knowing, just as we're talking about being prepared to reschedule this game, knowing that someone right now is sitting in the office that has no ties to Damar Hamlin, that his life will go on the same exact way if Damar Hamlin doesn't walk out of that hospital, is deciding the fate of what you do the rest of the week.
See, I don't think that happened tonight, though, man. I don't, because I think it.
And folks, that's going to be the end of my stream. So, folks, you'll hear more tomorrow about this. I assume there's going to be a lot more on this. I'll out.